yet on your channel, but let me just double check.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's live.
Okay, cool. Hi everyone. Okay, this is interesting. So welcome to all of you who've been waiting. Lorie and I have been chatting away in the background. So I don't know how much of our conversation you've been listening to, but it's been a beautiful, interesting, wonderful, transformative time. And we were just chatting about that. We'd love to know about you and your life and how you're doing. Welcome to the show, and a very big welcome to Lorie Ladd. I think most of you listening will know this wonderful woman. Most of you listening will have watched at least one of her videos. And if you haven't, where have you been? Under a rock somewhere. This is Lorie Ladd. Lorie, you are such a voice for humanity right now. You are such a voice of consciousness right now. Thank you for being here and welcome.
I'm so happy to be here with you. It feels so perfect. It feels like the absolute divine time to come together.
Yeah.
It feels really good. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Me too. And this conversation is messages for humanity. Messages for humanity, because the message that came through to me was exactly that humanity for the longest time has been wandering around in the dark. You know, what do I believe is happening? What do I think is happening? What does this mean? What does that mean? Where do I go from here? And there are so many amazing guides on the planet right now, but the ones that I've chosen to be my speakers are specific guides. The ones that I've chosen to speak are people who will lead you, the audience listening, to yourself. Those are the real voices that you've got to be listening to so that you can tune into your own inner wisdom. Lorie, we were just chatting off air about how at 13, you received your mission, you received your calling, right? At 13, I received my mission, I received my calling. This is what we were just talking about off air. So many of us, however, sabotage ourselves as we move into our calling. And I think that's where humanity is right now. They're on the brink of a purpose. They're on the brink of a next step. They're on the brink of a new horizon. And it's such a broad question, Lorie, but if somebody were to say to you, what right now is your message for humanity? As broad as that question is, what comes through for you that this is the thing that humanity needs to see right now? This is the thing that humanity needs to be directed to right now.
It's simple. It's so simple. It's sovereignty. And so the question is, what is sovereignty? Our whole entire lives, we were born into unsovereignty, so to speak, right? Meaning sovereignty is being in your true, authentic expression of you, right? Your voice, your knowingness, all your quirks, all your funkiness, right? Not changing for somebody else, not silencing yourself, not judging yourself. Really being able to stand in all of who you are, your perfect imperfections. We are born into a world where we are pulled out of all the aspects of, we're pulled out of who we are. We're pulled out of our feelings. We're pulled out of our thoughts, meaning this is what you are designed. This is what you are taught. This is what you are, these are the feelings that you should feel. These are the feelings you shouldn't feel. This is how you're supposed to be in this space, i.e. school. This is how you're supposed to be in this space, i.e. family. We're taught how to be unauthentic or unsovereign from the get-go. And what we are learning right now, and what is, I think, the most important, absolute most important piece right now, because we're going into some massive storms, right? And so sovereignty means, what is your truth? Who are you? What do you feel? How often are you judging yourself? Why are you judging yourself? Who told you to judge yourself? Who told you to shame yourself? Like, where all these programs that we've had, let's start taking them out feeling them, releasing them, letting them go, and starting to come back to ourselves. Because if we can start to do that, we won't be controlled. We will stand in our hearts. We will feel compassion and empathy. We will be able to walk through what is coming with more ease and grace without creating more of a divide. It's all about sovereignty, really, and just these tiny steps into it, right? Because it's a lot. Stepping into sovereignty it's massive, and yet it's simple. But it's really just coming back home. And you and I are doing it all the time, right? That we're just because we teach doesn't mean that we've nailed it. Like we're like, oh yeah, I've got this. Oh yeah, I got this. Oh yeah, it's just a constant. There's no perfection in it, but it is where freedom lies, right? It's where love resides. It's where everything is in this sovereign space within ourselves. So when you said all the, the guides that you resonate with are the ones that bring you home, it's because this is how we're going to navigate the rest of what's coming. Is we've got to be here, right?
Absolutely. And how many people, particularly in the spiritual community, how many people do we know they've spent their spiritual life trying to get out of their body? They've spent their spirituality seeking ways to escape. I remember being a kid in the 80s and the 90s, and astral traveling was the buzzword, and it was like everybody was going to learn astral traveling. But that's where the seed was planted back there. This is what spiritual people do. They go out of their body, and I've always spent all of my meditations and all of my focus with people and with myself. Get into the body. I swear it's why I was born in South Africa, because this place is as grounded as it gets. It's as real as it gets, especially now. this, I've often looked around and wondered, seriously, what was I thinking? Why would I come here? It can only be for the energy of groundedness. For those who live in South Africa, or for those who've been here, you know what I'm talking about. There's really a specific energy that I don't get anywhere else in the world, and it's an absolute groundedness. That's the gift of Africa. But without that, maybe I would have been one of those teachers teaching people to get out instead of get in.
Did you always know that it was about getting in the body?
Oh my God, okay. Now you've asked me that question. I'm going to share something so personal with you. As a kid, I always knew this, and how I knew it. Lorie, no matter how much exercise I did, no matter what I ate, I was overweight. And the only place I could go to try and resolve and solve the problem was to my guides within. So I did, and they kept telling me, it's part of your spiritual path. And I would say, how is being overweight my spiritual path? Give me another path. That's the worst path you can give me. First, I'm in South Africa. I'm sure I'm in the wrong country. Second, I'm sure I'm in the wrong body. I mean, what is going on here? And it was like this groundedness that you get from literally holding yourself in your body. This is what you need. And it was my path to master. And I knew that only when I had mastered it would I be able to lose the weight, would I be free from the weight, and would I then be able to be literally light in my body. So yeah, I knew, because it was reinforced over and over and over again to me, the only way out is in. You've got to keep getting in. And I cannot tell you the amount of times that I went back to my guides and said, surely this is it. I can't get any more in my body than I am right now. And they would always say, there's more, there's more. So where a lot of people were focusing outside on resonance and vibration, I was doing the same thing inside though. So that was my training. And it was very uncomfortable training, and I resented it, quite frankly, for many, many years. that was my training. So answer to the question, I always knew that being physical and grounded inside the body was how we were going to ascend.
Wow.
Which is almost complete contradiction, because everybody is going like, you've got to get light. You've got to literally be light inside your body, you know?
One of the things that I've noticed is, this idea of getting lighter, 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 or this idea of raising frequency, raising frequency, raising frequency. I'm one of those people that say, I don't teach that meaning I don't teach like, let's raise our frequency, raise your frequency, raise your frequency. I don't do that, because when you're in your body, right, and you know that there's a consciousness that is you, right, which is light, that's held within the physical form, and you actually start to form a relationship with your body, where you're realizing, oh my God, my body is the one that's actually ascending, not my consciousness, right? Yes. So it's the body that's actually ascending. And so who do I think I am to tell my body how it's going to do this, right? Like I'm going to take charge. I, being ego, is going to raise my frequency, or is going to do these things to pull my body into these higher states. The body is, the more you move into the body, the more respect you have for it. And the more you're like, oh, it knows. All I have to do is sit in the seat and trust that my body knows how to navigate this. And I didn't start going into my body. I mean, I had an eating disorder for a very long time. So I was never, and I was an alcoholic. I did everything. Wow. I did drugs. I had like relationships that were so unhealthy. Like there was, you name it, I did it to get out of my body, right? Like I had no respect for my body. I had no idea how to feel, I was numb most of my life. So it wasn't until about, no joke, I would say I really started coming into my body, and I didn't even know what that meant really until my guides were like, this is what you're doing, get in. And getting into me was feeling. That really was it. Like, Lorie, you've got to start to feel, and you've got to stop all of the things that have stopped you from feeling, which is men, alcohol, food, drugs, anything that would pull me out of really experiencing feeling. I had to stop. And that was how I got in. And it was about maybe 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I really started coming in. And as soon as I committed to coming into my body, well, first of all, the reason I did is because I committed to my work. And as soon as I committed to my work, I said, okay, I promise you, I was standing on a mountaintop, and I was like, all right, I'm ready to go in and do and serve humanity. I'll do anything you guys, my guides, right? I'll do anything you want. I'll do it all. I promise I will say yes to everything. And I've said yes to every single thing my guides have asked me to do, including healing, including sitting, including going deep and dark and breaking down and breaking down and breaking down and being in a ball and crying, thinking I was going to die. Like I wasn't, like all this, just these really intense moments of coming back home to me, looking at all of the, the things that I thought about myself, the things I believed about myself, all of it. And that is where we become whole. That is where I don't believe in trying to raise my frequency. I think that is nonsense, because my frequency is going to raise as soon as I embrace every stinking aspect of me that I can't stand. That's how you raise your frequency. You don't raise your frequency by drinking green juices. You raise your frequency by saying, what else can I not stand about myself? Let me devour that. And that is how I have raised my frequency, right? And so it's the courageous path of, what else is there in me that needs to be loved, right? What else is in me that needs to be seen and held, because it is at that place that we can then turn to humanity, right? And assist humanity through this.
Absolutely. It's so interesting that there you were escaping your body and I just couldn't. It's the one thing I just wanted to escape and I couldn't. I just couldn't do it. And thank you, God, our paths were as perfect as they are because they led us to where we are now. But I think the conversation is gold for so many people. Do you know why? I cannot tell you the amount of times that I've heard people say, and it's heartbreaking to me, they say, oh, I don't think I'm going to ascend because I'm too whatever, like I'm too sick, I'm too fat, I'm too old, I don't know what it is, you know, as if they're the driver of ascension.
Right.
But ascension is something that you allow. It isn't something you create, it's something you give passage to. So, like when you were there on the mountaintop and you were saying to your guides, I will say yes to whatever you tell me, whatever comes my way, I say yes to that. My words were slightly different, but equally powerful. I said to my guides, I'm willing to do these exact words, and I do not recommend people say these words unless you are seriously willing and inviting monumental change in your life. But the words that I used were, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I don't know what that is, but whatever it takes in order for me to live my truth, that's what I'll do. Had no idea how potent those words were going to be and how they would radically transform my life and how they would take me years to actualize. But nonetheless, that was my path. And that's all we have to do.
That's all we have to do. And, you know, just say, and the thing about it is, when you are evolving, when you're evolving into these higher states of consciousness, we already, and you know this, we already are what we are trying to get to. We already are it in the body. So conscious, you know, a light consciousness, spirit, soul, whatever words we want to use, God, we already are it. We are that higher state. Okay, the consciousness that dropped into the human body. So this human body is what is allowing us to access the higher states. It's the human body that has to bring itself physically into these higher states, right? So whatever is coming up in your ego, in your mind, in your thoughts, in your emotions, all of that, right, is in the body. It's not you. So when people say, I'm never going to be able to because I'm overweight, because I am smoking cigarettes, because I am ... You are attaching, right? They're attaching to that human experience. They're anchoring it in and they're holding on to it like, well, I guess I'm screwed. If you and I had done that, we wouldn't be where we are. If I had said, I am my eating disorder and I'm never going to I am my sexual abuse, I'm never going to I am my whatever it is, you have to learn to let go. You have to let go of what you think you are. You have to let go of what you think is stopping you, right? You have to let go and just say, I'm going to allow, like, what if just let it be okay. Let it be okay. Somebody messaged me the other day in my Patreon and they said something to the effect of, I am constantly having, tell me if you've ever heard of this. I've never heard of this. Memory grief, where you go back to the past, you look at photos and stuff and you feel grief. And they don't want to do this anymore. And I said, well, what if you just stopped trying to not do it? Meaning, what if you just allowed it and you just let it be instead of trying to change it or fix it or make it wrong? You were like, oh, I'm looking at photos. I'm feeling sadness. Next.
Yep. Yeah.
Right?
What you're describing is the most masterful thing. And this is the thing about mastery. Mastery always sounds so stupid simple. It sounds so simple that a person would almost want to dismiss it, because it's like, well, it can't be that easy. And it's simple, but simple is not necessarily easy. There's a big distinction. But the simplicity of what you're saying is so profoundly true, and it is the pathway to mastery, because what you're describing is the journey from unjudging yourself, from moving out of judgment, which is where the attachments will come from, into acceptance, and from acceptance into divine neutrality. And when you're there in that place called divine neutrality, you are there in the universal cosmic 0 point. You are now a passageway and a portal for ascension to happen. That's what we're all here to do. So if we drop all of the definitions that define us, that client of yours was saying is in her photographs, whatever it is that we've used to define ourselves, limit and judge ourselves, if we could just imagine holding all of that stuff in our hands and just letting go, who are you then? Who are you when you let go of all that you are not, and all that you've judged, and all that you think you are? You're then a blank canvas that you can really explore and access. Because something that I had to learn, as painful as it was to love. People say, oh, you got to love yourself. This is true, but that includes the body. That includes the body that you may not necessarily love, and yet it cannot be a false love. It has to be a real love, which means there's no way around this. Loving the self is loving the body. So when this happens, when we come into divine love of the body, it is divine acceptance of the body. At this point, the body will speak its wisdom to you. Mm-hmm. See, we're so busy telling the body who it needs to be that we don't even think for a moment that the body could even give us anything, let alone wisdom. And yet it does. The access point to that wisdom, though, happens the moment we let go of all that we've used to judge and define ourselves.
Right. Which is all external. Yes. It's all external. We're not born as that. We're taught that.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So we're learning how to unteach ourselves what we've been taught, which is never who we have ever been in the first place. Yeah. And so if you think about when we incarnated where? In the body. Where have we been the entire time? In the body. Right. And so we have learned how to judge. We've learned how to attach. Mm. We've learned how to believe that we are all of these things. And so we are unlearning all the things that we've been told that we are. And, if I were to, one of the things that I really appreciate about myself is that I only teach what I have gone through, what I've experienced, what I do. I am the evolution in physical form. I am evolving. I am learning all of this as I go with everyone else. And so when I talk about these things like detaching from expectation, letting go of attachment, letting go, these are the things that I've been doing myself, and they quote unquote work, right? It's like when my guides say to me, okay, we want you to let's play with manifestation, Lorie. And I said, okay, I'll play with manifestation. They said, what do you want in your life? Right. So I was like, doom, doom, doom. So easy, like published book, more success in my business and my partner coming in, right? So easy. Then they were like, all right, now what we want you to do is dissolve it all. Like watch it dissolve. And I'm like, what do you mean dissolve it all? They're like, literally watch it. What if it's gone? Then who are you?
Yeah.
Right. And can you sit in that space where it's there, but it's not there, right? So there's a detachment from it. But it's the same thing with the way that I have been able to move through my life with every emotion, with every thought, with every belief, is that I think you're the same way. I don't attach to it. It's like I have something, right? I have an emotion, or I have a thought that comes in, or I have a belief, and the emotion I just feel. I literally just feel it. I don't attach to it. I don't put a storyline to it. I just feel it. A thought that comes in, I choose. Wait, is that a thought I like? Is that a thought that I believe? Where'd that thought come from? Is that a thought I want? I choose. I'm empowered every time a belief comes in. I don't just let the belief lead my way. I really look at the belief and I'm like, wait, where'd that belief come from? Right? Do I want that belief? Do I not want that belief? Do I like, does this make sense to me? Right? So you're no longer zombieing around, sort of just allowing the thoughts, the beliefs, and emotions to dictate your reality. You're starting to choose. And that takes courage, because you have to feel. You have to be okay with seeing these things about yourself. You have to recognize that you're not any of it, right? And the more you recognize you're not any of it, the more you're like, bring it on. What else do you have? Right? What else do you got? Bring it on. That's always what I'm saying. Like, let's go. I'm ready. Like, what else do you have for me? Because if the more that I can feel, the more that I can unravel, the more I'm evolving, the more I'm ascending, the more I'm shifting. Right? Like yesterday, a friend sent me a video, and it brought me to tears, right? And so I devoured that moment of sadness. I devoured that moment of whatever I was feeling that brought me to massive bawling on the way to yoga. And within 10 minutes, it was completely gone, right? It was like, oh, now I'm back to a different state. So when you realize that emotion just does that, you don't need to say, oh my God, why am I feeling this sadness? Oh my God, is this okay that I'm feeling this? Wait, what does this mean? Do I have to do something with this? No, you just devour that emotion in that moment, and it moves.
Yes. Oh my people in my Patreon community, you will know these words because I say them often, what you've just said. As you connect to whatever it is that you feel, the feeling releases itself.
Yes.
Because so many people say, how do I let go? You don't. You literally don't, but you've got to be willing to let go, but you don't let it go. It's an automatic release that happens because you have felt something through to its point of completion. So in your case, I felt that sadness all the way in, under, around, through. I've got every facet of it. And because you're able, you call it devour, because you're able to connect so freely and fully without judgment, without limitation, you can process the emotion and then it's done. The release is always automatic.
Always. Yeah. Always. Especially when you don't attach, when you don't judge, when there's no storyline. It's like somebody just it's like you're watching a movie and here comes the next scene, and you're watching the scene and you know that there's going to be another scene to the movie. So why stay attached to that one scene that's creating one emotion? It's like you're watching Beaches or something, or some movie that's like super emotional, right? I don't know why I said Beaches, but anyways, and you're on the scene is really sad and you're feeling that sadness. Are you going to pause the movie and just stick with this and try to figure it out? And why is there so much sadness? And what am I supposed to do with this sadness? And am I this person? And what caused this sadness? But no, you're going to just let the movie, you're just going to feel it and let it keep going. Let the next scene come. Let the next scene come. It's so interesting to me. I love devouring the human experience. I love it so much because feeling is just a natural, we're designed to naturally feel in this third dimensional realm because there's so much to feel. And it's very simple. It's very simple to feel. And yet it is one of the most difficult things that humans are navigating, is how do I actually just feel? And it is literally the key. It's one of the keys to the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
because we're never going to not feel. And we're going to feel a lot going forward. We're going to feel anger, sadness, rage, happiness, joy, peace, like all of that. We're going to feel it all. So learning how to, like you said, let it go through its entirety, and so that and let it just move out. That's one of the greatest gifts that the human can start to remember.
Absolutely. And this is one of those cases where it's simple but not necessarily easy, because it takes willingness, and it does take practice, and it takes permission. Like, a person would truly have to give themselves permission to feel in such a way that whatever is coming, and I always see emotions like a wave. So as that wave washes into your being, because that's what the body is a vessel through which that wave is going to pass. And we're trying to deal with emotions out here, because the human doesn't want to let the emotion in, right? So we're trying to deal with it out here. And so what do? This is where we take the brain and we try to analyze the emotion, as if analysis and feeling are the same thing, but they're not. Mm-hmm. So we've got to let the wave into the body. And when we let the wave into the body to be experienced fully, that which you call devouring, experienced fully, at that point, we've got to be prepared to feel something in its entirety, instead of like this. When I say to people, can you feel your anger? They do this and they go, yeah, I'm in it right now. I'm feeling my anger. And it's like, no, just open up a little bit more. And they go, whoa, there's more anger than I thought. And then I'll go, just check it out, relax into it, let it be there. And they go, what? This anger is huge. This anger is going to destroy the world. It's that big. Yeah, but it passes, because it's just a wave of energy. So that is something that's simple but not always easy, is recognizing that even when we feel, we tend to do it like this. We tend to feel a little slice of the pie, instead of realizing, oh my gosh, there's a whole pie and I've got to feel the whole thing.
Like the whole wave, like just let the whole wave. Don't try to, because when you do this, it's control.
Yeah.
We like to be in control of the emotion, so that we know when we can let it go. Like, we want it to come in, I'm going to control it, the intensity of it, and then I'm going to drop it off at the bus stop, right? Like, I'm going to tell the emotion when it's time to go, right? Yeah. Because we are afraid that the emotion will stay. That's the fear. The fear is if I give myself completely to this, how long is it going to stay? How long? What if I have this emotion for 3 days? What if I have this emotion for 7 hours? Like, I've got to control it, because if I don't control it, then I'm not going to know then how long and how much and how intense, right? So it's a massive amount of courage and faith and trust that if something is coming up, because it's energy, just like you said. This is why I don't believe that drinking green juices raises your frequency and ascends to you, right? Because a green juice is not going to help you feel the energy that is stuck in your body. Okay? And the way you evolve and ascend is you release the density in your body. A green juice isn't going to do that. So when you have an emotion, it's saying, hey, Lorie, guess what? Time to shift. Time to shift. We've got something going that's a little bit denser than what's in than the frequency you're holding. Let's shift you. Every single time I know I feel something coming big that I don't want to feel, I am like, bring it. That is why I have evolved in the speed at which I've been evolving. Because I literally look at every pain, every emotion, every trigger, every thought, I look at everything as the opportunity to move me into that next highest version of me. So I devour all of it. If you don't, it's going to come back. So why not take it now? Why not say, okay, give me that sadness, give me that depression, give me that anger, give me that rage, give me that frustration, give me that joy, give me that peace. I don't look at feeling joy and feeling sadness different. I devour them both in the same way. Like you would never look at me and say, like I'm the same person when I'm devouring sadness as when I'm devouring joy. It's the same. There's no, it's like, you know, I'd be on the phone with my mom and it's like, oh, how's it going? Oh, I'm super sad today. I'm on the phone with my mom. How's it going? Oh, I'm peaceful today. It's the same.
You know, so many times in my life, I've had people around me and I've made the mistake of thinking, oh, these people are my friends, so I can just be me around them. And a very painful lesson that I learned in my life was that there was an expectation of me as a spiritual healer teacher. And the expectation was, because you are a healer teacher, it means you're always okay. It means you don't get down, you don't get anxious, you don't get sad, you don't get angry, you don't get these things because, again, this obsession with elevating your frequency happens. So what I learned was, wow, that's interesting. People are not okay when I'm not okay. 10 years ago, I met my husband. And this is how I knew it was love, Lorie. I had a meltdown, but a full-on, proper meltdown a couple of days after we'd gone into this relationship. And I'll never forget sitting on the end of my bed, sobbing. I still had mascara on from the night before, so I'm crying black tears. I'm wearing a nightie that should have been thrown away about 10 years ago, but you know, it's like really comfortable. I looked like hell on wheels, okay? And I'm thinking, this poor dude, I mean, he's thinking like, there's the girl of my dreams, and I just dissolved into this absolute mess. So there I am crying, and he looks at me, Lorie, and you know what he says? He says, "You're so beautiful." And I go, "You're the one. You're the one. You're the only one. You're the first one that can see that I don't become less Kerry when I'm angry. I don't become less spiritual when I'm sad. I don't become less when I'm afraid. I'm still me." That was a monumental revelation in my world. I'd never seen that before. Yeah, I'd never experienced it until he gave it to me. So now, I mean, the dude sees me as I am, in my highest high, in my lowest low, but he knows it's one person. That's a gift.
You know, what's so beautiful about you bringing this up is, you know, one of the paradigms that we live in the spiritual community, but in general, is that we have to put on some sort of facade for people, right?
Yeah.
And God forbid you should do a video where you're crying. God forbid you should do a video when you're irate. God forbid you should show any sort of anything that is not of the highest caliber, right? And what I think is so valuable right now is that I deeply believe that as a teacher, or as a whatever we want to call ourselves, we are here to mirror the human journey, the human experience. And if I can't show up authentically, if I can't be authentically me, like, then what am I doing? It is a facade, because every spiritual teacher, I don't care who it is, give me a name and I will show you aspects of them that they are still working on. We all are a work in progress, right? And I think it is a disservice to only show that you are put together and you have all of your cards in a row, and that's not true. Welcome to the evolution in human consciousness. I call bullshit on that. I call bullshit on it. And all that does is perpetuate a paradigm where these people are doing it better than I am. These people are more enlightened than I am. Have I gone through the ringer to get to where I am? Absolutely. Can I teach about it because I have? Absolutely. Right. But do we still show up as authentically as possible? Yeah, I think that's our role, is to do that. Because what it does is it allows everyone else to say, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. Oh, there's nothing wrong with me. Right. Even that story that you shared, it's like, oh my God, yes, I know that feeling. I've been there. Right. And the more that we can authentically just be us, the more it allows, for whatever reason, because of the world we're in, it allows others to be okay with being who they are. Right. If they see you and they're like, oh my God, she's just letting herself be her. She has the breakdowns. She has the the this and the that. It allows, I think, for teachers like ourselves, we think that we have to present ourselves in a certain way. And I think it's a disservice. I think everyone needs to see that we are all going through this. We're all going through it, right? To be all of ourselves is the most courageous thing we can do. For you to sit on that bed and say, okay, here it is. Yeah. Will I be accepted? Will I be loved? Will I be seen? We don't know who's going to do that until we do it.
Yeah.
We don't know. So we're acting like these people aren't going to accept me if I can just be as mushy and messy, and like there's so much freedom in that.
Absolutely. And it's real. And the thing that I've always found, and this is where I want to bring in a conversation about the galactics, because the thing that I have always found with them is that relationship of acceptance. There is no prerequisite for me to show up in their presence in a certain way. There is only the space for me to be as I am, where I am. And I don't know where you learned this, but I learned it from them. I learned it from hanging out with them, because this is how they deal with each other. This is how they deal with me. This is the relationship I have with them. It is so completely open. It is so completely free. There are no expectations. There is no judgment. You will not be less in their eyes because of something that you're feeling, because they know what feelings are. They're just transitory waves of energy. They're not a permanent definition. So the invitation to be authentic in their presence, yes, please.
Yeah. And they know the human, they always say to me, and there's two things coming up. One is these galactic beings, or these higher dimensional beings, these light beings, these consciousnesses that are outside of the human physical reality, meaning they are not physical in nature. They are us. So that aspect that you connect to is inside of you. And so what they always say to me is, Lorie, you're just being in the human experience right now. Why would you possibly judge any aspect of what you have chosen to be in? That makes no sense, right? It's like they're just kind of watching, like, yep, you're that. Yep, you're having that. Yep, we're going to guide you, but you got free will. Oh, look what you chose to do today. Like they're just watching you and like, loving every aspect of you, understanding that you're in the human experience. You got a lot that you have to navigate every day, right? And it's like, they always say to me that there's always the highest potential, right? Or there's always the higher version that you are moving towards, but you have free will, so you can do any roundabout you want. And they're just going to watch you do the human experience, taking a little cul-de-sac, coming back, right? Maybe following higher self again, maybe not. There's no judgment. A friend of mine, I was visiting a friend of mine the other day, and his guides came in really strong. And it was around a certain something in his life, right? I spoke to him about it, and I said, listen, what your guide said, that you don't have to do anything, you don't have to change anything in your life, but if you want to see the highest potential for you, this is their recommendation, but you don't have to do anything, right? Because he was like, well, did they tell me to do this? No, they didn't say they didn't say you have to do this in order to, be a better human. It was, there's a higher potential for you. This is the recommendation. Choose.
We're not used to being in the presence of an unconditional being who holds no judgment over us. So it takes getting used to be in their space and to really learn what that is. And it is the greatest gift. It is the greatest gift that they've given me, is the freedom to be me, so that I can share it with others, so that I can empower others to be at that place. And I've used very, very similar words with people where it's like, this is what's being given to you, but it's not a prerequisite, and it doesn't earn you brownie points, and it doesn't earn you love, because you already are loved. It's only about ease of passage. That's all it is. This is the easiest path, but you take whichever one you feel like. We'll be here regardless.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because one of the ways that I have been able to really understand this whole human experience is through their eyes, right? So it's like, and to know that they are, each and every one of us, every human body has that potential to see through those unconditional eyes. Like, we all have that within us. That's what we're learning or remembering or coming back home to. Because you and I have the ability to sort of really feel them and feel what that feels like, I think it makes it easier for us to experience that for ourselves and then share it with others, which is an absolute gift. But that's what sovereignty is. It's coming back to the whole complete you that sees you and the rest of humanity through the eyes of these higher dimensional beings.
Yeah. Somebody wrote in the comment section, and by the way, I haven't been ignoring you guys in the comment section. I've just been so in this conversation with Lorie that I've barely had a moment. I've got the comment section here on my right-hand side. I've barely had a moment to look at the comment section because this conversation is so riveting. It's like speaking to a kindred sister. But my eye did just catch a comment from Louise, who writes, I've been isolating myself for months because to me, it was wrong to show myself being emotional and being a mess and being human. It's like we are pressured to only show the good moments of our lives. Louise, the thing that you can do for yourself and for humanity that will serve you and serve them, even if they don't like it, even if it's uncomfortable, is to be fully you, because we're the ones who get to break the old reality. We didn't come to perpetuate it. We didn't come to hide away from it. We came to be examples of another way of being. And there are always going to be those who look at us and go, I don't like that. I don't like what Kerry is doing. I don't like what Lorie's doing. I don't like what Louise is doing. It's okay. That's not enough to stop me, Lorie, or you from being the truth of who you are. Conformity is what got us into this mess in the first place. So let the inner rebel fire up and come out and just be the so-called mess. But just like my husband looked at me in my messiest moments and said, you're so beautiful. And I knew he wasn't patronizing. It wasn't like, that, oh, you're beautiful when you're angry, because genuinely I wasn't. Genuinely, I looked horrific. I'm under no illusion. It was the inner beauty. It was the realness of the moment that he loved. So when you dare Louise and anybody listening, when you dare to get into realness with yourself, with others, I guarantee you, there are those, even if you don't know their names, there are those higher dimensional beings that look at you in that moment and go, she's so beautiful, he's so beautiful. That's genuinely how they would look at us, because we're bringing our realness into that moment, you know?
And it's why, you know, a lot of people say, not a lot, many, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? What's my purpose? Louise, your purpose is to show up as you. Your purpose is to cry in front of all the people that don't want to see you cry. That's your purpose. Like there are so many purposes, blueprints, missions, and we're so stuck on, I'm not doing mine, or how do I know what mine is? Yours is being authentically who you are every single day. That is how you're going to shift the entire human collective. That's how you're going to shift the entire human collective, is by breaking out of the patterns and the programming and the control, by saying to yourself, if I don't be me, then I am being a disservice to all the humans that are waiting for me to be me. We don't remember that we made contracts. Whether you are Louise or whether you're Lorie, you made a contract when you came in to help all the humans that would forget. And so one of the ways that you do that is that you allow yourself to start to just be you amidst all of the program, i.e., you're going to make me feel bad if you start crying. You're going to make me feel bad if you start to get angry, or whatever that is. That you're going to make me feel ... is a program. That person just isn't aware yet that they've just been programmed to not be authentically themselves yet. So show up authentically so that you can mirror that to them, regardless of their reaction, response, or trigger. That's what we're here to do right now, is to be authentically sovereign in every aspect of ourselves, courageously breaking out of those programs, so that we can say, listen, I know where you, I know what's going on with you. I get it. I love you. I see you. I honor you. I'm still going to have to, because it's why I'm here. I'm going to show up as me, whether it triggers you or not. That is sovereignty, because you're not taking responsibility. So what Louise is doing is she's taking responsibility for other people's emotions, reactions, responses to her just being herself. And so instead of just saying, I'm not going to take responsibility for them, I'm just going to be me, she's really sort of unconsciously saying, I'm going to protect them by not being me. No way, girl. Be you. Be all of you all the time right now. Stand up and be you. Cry, break down, do whatever you need to do, because that is how you heal humanity. That is how you wake up humanity. That's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely. Such beautiful comments, and I know I've missed a lot of them, and I do apologize, but as I look, every now and then my eye catches the most beautiful comments. I must say hello to Misha. You've been asking questions and sending the most beautiful comments. I saw your question earlier, Misha. You asked about anxiety, and I don't remember exactly the question. It was something along the lines of, what do I do around anxiety, and especially if there's a lot of people with anxiety around me? Whatever it is, whether it's anxiety or happiness, whether it's depression or joy, it's just a wave of energy. Feel it so that you can release it. And something like anxiety, whatever the scary stuff is, whatever the judgment around that is, that's what's standing between you and resolution. So find that judgment, love that judgment, so that that judgment can become acceptance, which can become permission to let you feel the wave. And then you can be an example to those around you. Instead of a sponge taking in their stuff, you can be an example to them of how else to be in the world. But Nisha, you wrote a beautiful comment just moments ago. People were talking about normal, about being normal in the comment section. And Nisha summed it up so perfectly. Oh, sorry, it wasn't Nisha. It was Datsun Lover. This is pure gold. Normal is a mask. Ta-da!
Yay!
That's exactly
Yay!
what normal is. Normal is a mask, and by God, we're not here to wear them. That is it.
What is normal? Programming, right?
Well, yeah, yeah, exactly. And we don't have to conform to anybody else's idea of who we were supposed to be. The freedom to be you is now. You know, you started this conversation, Lorie, talking about sovereignty. And part of sovereignty is taking responsibility for where you are, what it feels like to be you in the world right now, so that all the shattered pieces of you, all the fragmented pieces of you, find a place to be whole. That's how I see sovereignty. It is our superpower. It is the most spectacular thing. And it's in these conversations, and you know, these conversations are really activations, that we come back to our center, come back to ourselves. And so often it's just a little realignment. Don't you find that people often think like, oh my God, I've got to heal this huge, big, massive thing? And most of the time it's just dink,
Click, click. Yep.
exactly, exactly.
Tiny little clicks, because if you start to look at the whole big picture, you're going to shut
Mm.
down.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
too big, it's too much. That's why
yeah.
presence is so beautiful, because
Mm.
when you start practicing presence, you can fully devour the gift of presence, right?
Yeah.
Which is like, what is showing up for me right now, meaning I'm about to go to the grocery store, I'm driving in my car, I am, I'm feeling a certain experience, I get to the grocery store, I'm now in line, and I have this interaction with someone in that present moment state. What's the interaction? What am I experiencing? What am I feeling? Right? Like, the presence is where those are the little clicks. Those
Mm.
are the little tiny little clicks,
Mm.
um, the little puzzle pieces that put it all together. And before you know it, you're like becoming more and more sovereign. You're becoming more and more whole. You're becoming more and more you. You're starting to speak your truth a little bit more.
Mm.
Every present moment is an opportunity to
Mm.
practice and to move
Mm.
into that whole mastery state of being.
Mm.
Because if you look at the big picture, it's too much. It's like looking at a puzzle with 1,000 pieces, and you're like, I'm going to put that thing together. Like, I'm done. I'm out. Right. And it's like, oh, no, just put one piece at a time. Just
Mm.
what's in front of you right now. What are you
Mm.
feeling right now? That's it.
Mhm.
That's how this evolution happens, is one
Mm.
little at a time, one little
Mm.
boop at a
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
You know?
I so feel you in this presence, and I so feel the presence of presence itself in this moment and in this conversation. And I know that everybody who's tuned in, whether they've tuned in for 5 minutes or from start to finish, I know that you have at some point joined that stream of consciousness that is presence itself coursing through your body. I am so grateful to have shared this conversation with you, Lorie Ladd. Thank you so much.
It's been
Thank you for
such a
being,
pleasure.
just thank you for being on planet Earth right now in this crazy mess called ascension. Thank you so much for who you are, for what you're doing. Everybody listening, my name is Kerry K. My YouTube channel is Kerry K. On Instagram, I am Kerry K. It's at I am Kerry K on Instagram. That's where you'll find me. Lorie Ladd, you are on YouTube. Your channel is Lorie Ladd. On Instagram, Lorie_Ladd, isn't it?
Yep.
Find her, connect with her. See me back again next week, Tuesday. I've got Jason Estes, who, that's another one. Jason, you and me, there's a galactic conversation that needs to happen there at some point, that I'm sure will take place. But next week, Tuesday, I've got Jason Estes with me. If you haven't heard him speak before, you need to. He's really a powerhouse. He's an amazing human being. And the following Tuesday, I've got Jen McCarthy with me. So there's a beautiful lineup of speakers. It is just for 6 Tuesdays. It is just for the teachers and the guides who I know will lead you to you. So thank you so much, Lorie Ladd.
I loved it. I love you. Thank you for everything. Thanks, guys, for being here with us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.